Folks, thanks again for joining us. Our guest is Dave Brat. All of you know who he is. Dave Brat just brought about a stunning defeat of Congressman Eric Cantor. I have to tell you, folks, just before I bring him on, I was sitting in my family room watching the returns. And when I saw a streamer go by saying that Dave Brat had won, I jumped out of my seat because I said, are they right? Because all the pundits, all the prognosticators predicted it wasn't even going to be close, that Eric Cantor would just slide back in. And when they verified it, I mean, my wife and I just absolutely rejoiced. Not that we hate Eric Cantor, but we know that we have a need for leadership that has a different approach and a different point of view, that has the courage to stand up for the foundational principles of this nation without equivocation and without apology and without compromise. We knew that Dave Brat was that kind of person, and we were just absolutely elated at his victory. Wish Eric Cantor the best, but Dave Brat, I believe, is the leader that we need for the future of this country. He is, got to believe it or not, an MDiv from Princeton. So in a sense, I mean, he's a man of the cloth. He's certainly a godly man, but he's also got a PhD in economics. What a combination. I mean, I love that combination, you know. So, folks, I could go on and on about his background. I think, you know, what you need to know, obviously, is that he has really changed the nature of the game, shall we say, in proving that no matter how entrenched an incumbent is, when you reach the hearts of the people, you can win against the odds, outspent and seemingly certainly out advertised and all of that, and yet you emerge victorious. So with that being said, let me introduce you to Dave Brat. Dave, thanks again for joining us. We're so glad to have you.
Oh, thank you, Bishop Jackson, for having me on. Thank you for opening with prayer, too. We appreciate that. I'm happy to say a few words. Hey, I want to thank you for the introduction as well. I think your listeners, I think you set it up just right. My entire life's work, I've been trying to combine economics with ethics. And so I first got that seminary training, and then while I was in seminary, by the way, it's kind of interesting, a lot of the pastors were not following the founding principles. They were kind of taking the more modern, easy stance of just writing your congressman at the federal level as the first step in public policy. And I think all the listeners here know Talkville and all the founders were supposed to start with personal responsibility, and then if you need a hand, family, and then if you need a hand, maybe local government, and then state government, and the last resort, and only the constitutionally provided work at the federal level. And so even while I was in seminary, I saw that even the clergy folks who should know better were heading off on the wrong path, and that led me to pursue a life in public policy. And so I just wanted to let the listeners know that that's kind of my background. I've taught at Randolph-Macon for the last 18 years, combining economics and ethics, taught third world economic development, taught an economic justice course that starts with the Judeo-Christian principles. And the students were not that familiar with that history, and so that was challenging. But in the end, they came out better for it, and I think they appreciated that course. And then chaired my department for the last 6 years at Randolph-Macon. Worked on the governor's board of economists for the last 6 years under a couple governors, and been happy in that service. And so I'd just like to share with your listeners basically the broad themes I'm running on, and then some of the principles that we all believe in, and then I'd be happy to take as many questions as you have. We started off 6 months ago running on a shoestring budget with a small staff, but the principles mattered, and we chose to run on the key issues that we think are most hurting the country right now. And number one, I'm an economist, so maybe I'm biased, but we think the number one issue is still the economy. Economic growth the last quarter was negative 3%, and then we finally got a quarter of growth, but on average we're not doing so hot, and everybody knows we're kind of heading toward Europe and European slow growth, and that results in jobs that are hard to find now. I teach college kids, they're having finding jobs. People are reluctant to leave their job. and the anxiety level is huge. Small business is under pressure. And so number one issue is jobs and the economy, and then, of course, with that is fiscal responsibility. And I think everybody knows the basic number, $17 trillion in debt. And then go to the bottom of the U.S. debt clock, that debt clock that is spinning faster than you can see. And at the bottom, you see unfunded liabilities of $127 trillion in unfunded. That's not the cost of the programs. That's the unfunded part. And that's all the entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Bush prescription drug program. And we're throwing that on the next generation, and that is not ethical. And so that's the main thrust of the campaign is trying to educate and have everyone else educate each other on these issues, because they're not going away, and a burst of growth will not get us there. And then secondly, the second cluster of issues centers around Obamacare, but all of our issues are related. And so Obamacare, everybody knows right now, a lot of small business people are having to lay off their dear friends' employees, right? Some people think of business as bad. Of course, we don't. We think of business as the heroes in our society. And they're doing the best to create jobs and hire new folks. And Obamacare is just increasing costs, increasing insurance premiums, increasing deductibles. People are getting less care, not more. And it's putting a huge burden on folks. And I have a lot of small business friends that are having to tell their employees, hey, I can no longer handle it. I can't get you health insurance. So what the program that was supposed to ensure health care is actually having the opposite effect, and I think we all know that. And then the third major issue we ran on and are still running on because it matters, and we're kind of proud we nailed it 6 months ago, and that's immigration and amnesty. Big business and the Chamber of Commerce were in bed with government, and they were trying to pursue policies to find cheap labor in any way they could. And one way to do that is to provide amnesty for anywhere from 6 to 10 million new immigrants who are illegal, who have cut in line, have not followed our rule of law. And everybody knows that will not only provide cheap labor to businesses, but your wage rate will go down as well, right? And so Americans know their wages are not going up, and this is one part of that story. And then the flip side of that coin is who pays the bill and the social costs. And I think the rough statistic is about half of all the illegal immigrants are on some sort of entitlement program. And so those are huge costs that I just got done going over. And everybody knows the taxpayer is on the hook for those programs. So those are the big three. And then we ran at 100% on the Republican ticket, on the Republican creed, but we also ran trying to unite the entire conservative wing of the Republican Party with the grassroots, with the Tea Party, with libertarians, with even some Democrats who believe in fiscal responsibility, want to get the country back on track. And I think we've done a good job with that. And there's a reason for that. We never ran against Eric Cantor. We don't run against personalities. We run on principle. And the Tea Party creed, the Libertarian creed and belief system runs 100% in tandem with the Republican creed. And so I don't want to spend too much time going over that, but I'll just run through the basic 6 principles quickly. And if people have more questions on those, I'm happy to take as many as folks are interested in. But the first one starts off with a commitment to the free market system. And that sounds like a platitude these days, right? People just say the free market system as if it's, everyone understands what it is. But it's pretty complex, and it's hard to unpack. There's always been trade, and there's always been, freedom to trade. You can go back to the ancient Greeks. But the free market system has to be chosen by society, and we did that. We chose to have capitalism and free markets back at about 1800. And as a result of that, we've become the richest nation on earth. And it's due to that one choice alone. And if you look at the other countries in the world now who are doing well, China is finally feeding their people for the first time in world history, 1.2 billion people. India is finally feeding its people, 1.2 billion people as well. And why is that? That's because they have chosen the free market system, and they're doing well. And while they're choosing it, our country, I think everybody that's listening knows, we're moving away from the free market system, and we can already feel the effects, and it's some pretty scary effects. The second plank of the Republican creed is equal treatment under the law, equal justice for everyone. I've been going around meeting with every group I can, and when you look into the eyes of people and you say it and mean that whether it doesn't matter whether you're an Indian business community, African American pastors, any groups I've met with, if you promise and people think that you believe in equal treatment under the law for all people, that is a powerful claim. And that, of course, is an American value, right? That is not none of these are Republican values. These are standard American values, and we believe in them 100% because they matter. The third plank of the Republican creed is a commitment to fiscal responsibility at all levels of government, but of course the federal is the one I'm running on, the federal level of Congress, and that's where the truly scary numbers occur. I've covered most of those already. But you can also look, the state is fairly well run. Some of the Henrico and Hanover counties around here are fairly well run and well managed, but the federal programs are insolvent. Medicare, their own board of trustees, Social Security, they're insolvent at the federal level. So by no means can we say we have fiscal responsibility in this country right now, and the Democrat Party that I'm running against wants to increase spending on these programs in light of $127 trillion in unfunded liabilities. The fourth principle in the Republican creed is adherence to the Constitution, and most importantly, in my campaign, we ran on the 10th Amendment, and we don't believe as conservatives in reaching utopia on earth, but I did promise that wherever possible, I will try to move the needle to bring power from the federal level back down to the state level. Education policy, especially Common Core, and all of those top-down central planning type of programs have failed the country miserably. Our kids are currently scoring at the bottom of the developed world, at the bottom of the OECD test scores on math and science, and that is our future economy. 20 years from now, those kids will be our economy, and we're failing them miserably. And so the 10th Amendment is not just a theoretical tool. It matters in practice and applies to a whole host of issues that I think we can do much better if we have 50 experiments going on at the state level. Fifth principle is peace is best preserved through a strong national defense, not from leading from behind, not from ignoring the rest of the world is ignoring our president's red lines one after the other after the other. If you go around the world, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Russia, the Ukraine, China, Korea, there's problems, hot spots all over the world. Red lines are being drawn. The rest of the world crosses them. There's no strict consequence, and the rest of the world sees American weakness. And I think conservatives see that very clearly as well. And then the final principle you open with prayer is in the Republican Creed, we believe in God and the faith of our founders. And we believe that faith is absolutely essential for a strong moral fiber. All of our founders knew that. Adams knew it. Madison knew it. George Washington knew it. They all stated it. But politicians are getting weak-kneed on that. And where you don't have strong moral character, your republic will not last for many generations beyond that. And I couldn't be more proud to be on your show today with you, Bishop Jackson, because your life story has just been is rejuvenating and full of life as the campaign we're trying to run right now. You've been an inspiration to me, to the country, and we all know it comes from your faith, and that it gives you an energy that we all admire, and I'm proud to be on your show with you today. Thank you for letting me open up with some of those remarks, and happy to take any questions that folks may have right now.
Thank you, Dave. Folks, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, we'd ask you to keep it brief. Press *6 to get in queue. That's *6 to get in queue. We've only got one person in queue right now, so the sooner you get, I mean, it's going to be on a first-come, first-served basis. Press *6. Dave, let me kick this off really quickly. One of the things I admire most about your campaign is that you talked about immigration. You made clear that you have some concerns about that. You talked about faith in God. You didn't shy away from that. But you were able to do so in a way that you were not pigeonholed, as so often we are, as haters and bigots, and the Republican Party hates poor people and it hates minority people. And you know, you and I both know that our faith in God prohibits that. We do have to take a stand on what we believe is right, but we're not allowed to hate people. We're supposed to love everybody and be concerned about everybody. But you really, I think, demonstrated that. What was the key to doing that, so that you didn't get tarred with that sense that, well, he's just another one of these narrow-minded, bigoted Republicans?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard and it's a challenge, because as soon as you mention ethics or God, and the night I won, I said, because it's true, I believed it was a miracle from God, and of course you take flack for that. But, you know, I just did it because it's like you said in your prayer, we love this country, we love our neighbors, we love our enemies. And I ran on that. And I made it clear that I was running on principles, not against personalities. And so you can make an easy distinction when you just say, hey, look, Joe Smith may differ with me 100% on the principles, right? I don't hate him. I just think he's completely wrong on the issues. And when you have a background in economics and in seminary training, I mean, you can go back and you see that nations' success depend on applying these principles we believe in. And so the overwhelming evidence is on our side, and somehow our side is losing the moral argument. I think, for example, we lost the Obamacare vote to the Democrats, and they can't even name what moral theory they believe in. And so we're losing moral arguments because no one will even raise them. And so I think you're right to draw attention to that. We have to be positive as we put our ideas forward. And so I just always try to draw a distinction between getting personal, because we love all people, and yet not backing down on any principle, because we know that if we truly love people, sometimes you got to take a hard stand. And because if you don't, people will perish, right? I have foreign policy, military policy right now. If you do not take the right stand, we will lose young people because we failed to be courageous in our stance.